you? I haven't dropped the ball on this, everyone. It's just been that there has been no word and no news. Of course, they are under the guise of Christmas break, although one would think if they had anything relevant to say, they would let us know. Let the students know. So it's still a mystery, for us anyway. And I do see here there is a vigil to this Mr. Rodriguez. And I would get out, except they really don't want people to park in the housing area unless you have like a visitor sticker from a housing person. But you can see that there are very much flowers and a reminder that there was a student here. Now here are a bunch of empty boxes. I don't know if someone is moving in or out. Under the volcano, sweep it under the rug school. First it was Ted Bundy. It's a beautiful night though out here. There's nobody out and about, and yet there's this heavy sense of, I would think, of some kind of profound sadness. Here's where they overbuilt. We've kind of talked a little about that. This was really thick old growth, and the college was really supposed to only be a certain size, and it was also supposed to be a preserve, a kind of a combination, and they supposedly lost the original plans. Oh my god. So here we have this is Indian Pipe Loop, which I'm sure all of the new students probably think that's a funny name. All the names seem to have like a double sort of weird kind of drug connotation here. I'm sorry I don't talk about it enough, but you know, we're on Bud Inlet and Indian Pipe. There's other kind of funny names that are part of the college. And this, if you're interested in the tunnels, I sort of only accessed maybe a hallway to them once. And this is kind of a little background here. They're all on break. I'm sure you think they're probably always on break, but this kind of drives up into a garage, I believe. If it went the other way, it would go to the library. I bet Bundy knew all this stuff. So here's this under garage right here. And that is where you access, or where I kind of by accident did. It was creepy. And yeah, there was like these really weird rooms. And Doc really did have the one sort of story of them, you know, because it was kind of like a joke, like this pranky thing, like, oh, the tunnels, you know how colleges will have their sort of weird little thing, but there would never really be anything said, and, you know, no one ever really knew anything. There was kind of like a sort of a boring urban legend, you know, there's tunnels, but it was just sort of, you know, that was that. But when Doc went with McCann, who was the first president of the college, and you know, so the rumors were sort of right away. And Doc, because he was a Vietnam vet, you know, Charlie said, let's go down. And he said Charlie was a good president. Remember, with a lot of these things, they'll get, you know, what do they call it, the 60-40, where you've got a certain amount of people who are sincere and don't know that they're the front man for something, you know, kind of like that SIL Language Institute, where Rockefeller hired all of these, you know, kind of just super fundamentalist, you know, that one guy was almost what you would call rabid, and then they would be able to do all kinds of stuff, and they've got these front people that are just doing a great job, kind of obfuscating, you know, the takeover of Latin America or whatever. So what they did find, they did indeed find something. I may have mentioned it in another video, but it was, God, it was some kind of lethal gas. It was black canisters. And Doc said if you ever see black canisters run, right, it's got like cyanide in it, or just something bad. And it was anti-riot. The school was built in 1967, and they definitely had, you know, stuff where they could just shut everything down. You see that it's built in a rather isolated way. There's not a whole lot of ways in or out of it. And back that way is kind of where Bundy's cabin was. Not that I'm, it's weird, I was going to say not that I'm doing a Bundy tour, but my God, this is and was his spy, hired spy of Dan Evans and we've got people who want to know more about the missing 911. Series is an incredible series, and I'll be putting some links to some of those things. It's just that living so close to it, I'm kind of nervous. Like, I'll go into detail in some other videos about going into backcountry and being really part of all of that. And there, okay, that's interesting where it says extreme fire danger there. That's actually a hazardous waste site, and of course there's another dopey story behind it. It had been like a ceramic studio for the college, and then they found out that then they shut it down. It was some kind of like, you know, it seemed like a cool thing. And then they turned it into a daycare. And then I think everyone was like getting really sick at the daycare, and it had a bad reputation. Like, people called it the broken arm daycare or something. Like, the people weren't doing a good job watching. Driftwood, it was called Driftwood, but there were other names for it. And I can't remember them. But they they found out that it had been super toxic, like insanely toxic place from whatever the art studio was using had copious amounts of lead in it. And then the health department found out, wow, you've got a daycare going here at Evergreen in a place where there was tons of lead. Like the health department went and they just couldn't believe like what showed up on their meters. So it immediately got demolished. And it would be interesting to talk more about that too, about the house getting demolished in Idaho. That's kind of a big no-no, isn't it? To get rid of the evidence like that before a jury has had a chance to do a walkthrough to get a realistic idea of what it would take time-wise, etc. Wow, just sort of creepy. Here is the beach, and wow, it does look like there are a lot of people there tonight. I am surprised. That's usually that's nice to see. It's a good place for doggies, but we're just gonna keep doing this at the moment. And again, the college is very isolate, and that was kind of part of the MK Ultra programming, was being isolate, you know, for the programming. Although you don't always have to be isolate. There's one really weird MK Ultra story, and I want to do another vid kind of really looking into it. I'm not just sort of finding stuff on it right away, which is kind of a bummer, because it usually is, it's something that used to kind of just pop right up. And so we will look into that more, of things that were going on in urban places as well, that were having good results. But I think, sorry about my thumb, I think that the isolation though really was key for certain types of programming. And we've talked about, is MK Ultra still going on? We all know it is. And do they change facilities, or do people die? Ted Kaczynski was 16 years old when he went to Harvard. He was he was the wunderkind. And it's interesting because this wunderkind that he was, the man died who he was under there, the mentor or whatever, and they found all these weird papers. So are there MK Ultra programs that, where the people die off, or it gets abandoned, or, who fills the role next, or is everything sort of passed on really diligently? What exactly goes on? And I thought maybe we could go over to maybe the organic farm and see what there is to see at the organic farm. And that's kind of an odd place too, and it's sort of isolate within the isolation a little bit, although they might have their own little kind of, again, that word, community there. So let's check that out as well. But, there's weird things about that. Like, I don't know. I guess I think that our country is dumbed down so much. It's like the new people in charge, do they even know what MK Ultra is? Right? What if what happens if you don't have people to fill the shoes? I don't know. So here we are. We are heading to the organic farm. That's kind of a funny thought, isn't it? What if there's nobody who even, can, and are there different, directions that they go in? So, these are just kind of general questions, but it seems like it would be worth looking into. And was this successful? Did it fail? Are they tracking people? Do you see those stumps? There's some big stumps where it's kind of a bit of a clearing. There was a teacher here who had a brother who had a big saw, and one summer, Doc and I just kept hearing all of this, and we followed it and realized, and it was totally illegal. In fact, the newspaper was even horrified. They came out and there were like truckloads of giant old growth. This was all just giant old growth in here. And that guy just made off like a bandit. They had pictures of it. I'd like to go back and show you because you'd be stunned. Like, old growth so big, only a couple of trees could even fit, on the flatbed of the truck. And it was on the front of the paper. So, they thinned it out. When I was going here, I remember the Findhorn, was it Spencer came here, and it was a little bit creepy. He told everyone he was the reincarnation of Puck or something. I don't know. So, just kind of giving you a little bit of a little back tour here, and whoever is ever part of that, this is where the caretaker gets to live, and it's always kind of a grand fun sort of thing, and they can have the parties, and it's kind of like a very private kingdom. They get to have like the little interns do everything, so it's kind of a secret fancy schmancy in the woods, if any of you are interested in doing that. Although it's hard to get rid of them. Once they come in, they like to stay. I'm gonna take Mankin for a walk before we get